when you received a message from a man claiming to be your biological father. Mr. Johnson, you say the plaintiff's mother played games and unfortunately have substantial reason to doubt paternity. Is that?
For 26 years, Nissa Moffett believed she knew exactly who her father was, the man who raised her, the man her mother had always pointed to as her protector. But one ordinary afternoon, a single Facebook message shattered everything she thought she knew about her own bloodline. The message came from a man she had never met, claiming to be her real father. He didn't ask politely or introduce himself gently. His words were direct. "Hi, this is Lawrence Saunders. Call me because you are my daughter. I've been looking for you." At first, Nissa thought it was a cruel prank, a stranger on the internet pretending to be her father. It didn't make sense. But when he sent her a photo, a faded picture of her as a toddler, something inside her began to tremble. How did this man have a picture of her from when she was 2 years old? The shock ran so deep that she couldn't process it right away. Confusion turned into disbelief, disbelief into fear. "I didn't know what to think," she recalls through tears. "He said I had 2 siblings I'd never met. I didn't even know if he was telling the truth. It was just a lot." In that moment, she realized the past might not be what she thought it was. So she did what anyone in her position might do. She called him. And on the other end of the line, the man's voice trembled. He told her how long he'd been searching, how much it hurt to hear her say, "You're not my dad." He swore that he could prove it. But proof is what brought them all to paternity court, because the truth about Nissa's father wasn't just a family mystery. It was a decades-old love triangle that had hidden behind silence and guilt for almost 3 decades. When the hearing begins, Judge Lake looks at Nissa with compassion. "You always believed the defendant, Mr. Johnson, was your dad until 2 years ago when you received that message. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Nissa replies softly. Across the courtroom sits Mr. Johnson, a calm, aging man with deep, thoughtful eyes. He's been the only father figure she's ever known. But now, even he admits that there's a chance he may not be her biological parent. He tells the court that back when Nissa's mother, Ms. Moffett, became pregnant, things were complicated. "Me and 2 other guys was, seeing her at the time," he admits. "I didn't know who the father was. I had doubts from the beginning." That statement hits like a thunderclap. For Nissa, this isn't just about biology, it's about identity. The man she called dad all her life, now openly questioning whether he's really hers. When Ms. Moffett takes the stand, she looks both remorseful and fragile. Her story spills out in long, trembling breaths. She explains how she met Mr. Johnson when she was young, how he was married, how they fell deeply in love despite the circumstances. "He showed me things I'd never seen before," she says quietly. "Even though I knew he was married, I fell for him." Their affair was secret and intense, full of stolen moments and risky meetings. Their favorite place, she recalls with a bittersweet smile, was a Burger King parking lot, a strange but memorable corner of their forbidden romance. For 2 years, their affair continued. Then she moved to Mississippi, trying to start fresh. But fate had other plans. When Judge Lake asks what happened when she found out she was pregnant, Ms. Moffett hesitates before answering. "I wasn't sure who the father was," she admits, "because that same week, I'd been with both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Saunders." The courtroom falls silent. She explains that she went to visit Mr. Johnson one day while he was at work. While waiting for him to finish his shift, she stopped by the home of an old boyfriend, Lawrence Saunders, the same man who later messaged her daughter. "One thing led to another," she says softly. "I ended up having sex with him that day, and with Mr. Johnson that same night." She looks down at her hands. That's why I was never sure. Judge Lake's voice is steady but empathetic. So, you were intimate with both men during the window of conception? Yes, Your Honor, the same day. It's a heartbreaking confession, not because of shame, but because of the ripple effects it caused. When she realized she was pregnant, Ms. Moffat told both men. I showed Mr. Johnson a picture of baby Nissa and told him she could be his, she recalls. But I also told him about Mr. Saunders. I wanted to be honest. Mr. Johnson confirms this. Yeah, she told me both of us could be the father. That's when I started having big doubts. Still, over time, as Nissa grew older, the resemblance became hard to ignore. Family members began saying, "She looks just like Mr. Johnson." Her eyes, her mannerisms, her smile, everything seemed to reflect him. Even though I wasn't sure, her mother says, in my heart, I always felt Mr. Johnson was her father. She was a loved child born from love, not from accident. But even with that conviction, a mother's silence carried heavy consequences. Nissa explains that she never knew there was another possible father until she was 26. All my life, I was told Mr. Johnson was my dad, she says. I never heard anything about Mr. Saunders, not once. When she found out the truth, she was devastated. It's not about choosing one man over another, she tells the judge. It's about knowing where I come from. Everyone deserves that. Judge Lake nods gently. Yes, they do. When asked why she waited so long to tell her daughter, Ms. Moffat's voice breaks. I didn't mean to hurt her, she cries. I just didn't think either man really cared. Mr. Saunders was gone, and Mr. Johnson, well, he had his own family. I thought keeping quiet would protect her. I didn't want to cause more pain. But silence doesn't protect forever. The turning point came when Nissa fell seriously ill, a health crisis that left her in a coma for days. That's when everything changed. Mr. Johnson remembers vividly. Her stepdad called me and said, "You need to get to Indiana as soon as possible. We don't know if she's gonna make it." So I went. I saw her lying there with all those tubes, fighting for her life. He stayed for 3 nights straight by her bedside. I told myself, no matter what happens, I'm gonna be there for her from now on. Whether she's mine or not, I couldn't walk away. When Nissa woke up, she asked for her father. She didn't ask for Mr. Saunders. She asked for Mr. Johnson. That, more than anything, convinced him that love goes beyond biology. Still, the question lingered. Who was her father by blood? When asked about Mr. Saunders, her mother shakes her head. He didn't come to the hospital. When Nissa woke up, she gave me his number and asked me to call him. He made excuses, said he couldn't make it. That moment spoke volumes to everyone in the courtroom. If he really believed she was his child, Mr. Johnson says firmly, he would have been there. No excuses. It's a powerful statement, one that reveals the difference between claiming a child and showing up for one. Nissa wipes her tears, struggling to keep her composure. I'm just hurt, she says quietly. I waited 28 years to know the truth. I just want closure. I want to stop feeling torn between two fathers. Judge Lake nods slowly, her voice soft but steady. You deserve that clarity, honey. You deserve peace. The tension builds as the DNA envelope is brought forward. Everyone leans in. These results, Judge Lake begins, were prepared by DNA diagnostics. In the case of Moffat v. Johnson, when it comes to 28-year-old Nissa Moffat, the courtroom goes silent. It has been determined by this court that Mr. Johnson, you are her father. For a moment, no one moves. Then Nissa gasps, covering her mouth as tears stream down her face. Mr. Johnson smiles through his own tears. The room erupts in applause. Nissa rushes toward him and embraces him tightly. "I knew it," she whispers. "I knew it." He holds her close and whispers back, "You're my baby girl, always have been." Even Judge Lake wipes her eyes. "This," she says warmly, "is why we do this work, because the truth doesn't just hurt, it heals." The courtroom fills with laughter and relief. Nissa's mother sobs quietly, whispering, "Thank you, God." And for the first time in years, the Moffat family breathes the same air without the weight of doubt between them. The courtroom still feels heavy from the emotion of the verdict. Though the truth has finally been revealed, the air carries the kind of silence that only comes after a storm, when everyone is still trying to process what just happened. Nissa wipes her eyes again, still clinging to the man she now knows, without any doubt, is her biological father. For nearly 3 decades, she lived in confusion and silence, unaware of the truth buried beneath her family's history. But now, as she looks at Mr. Johnson, she sees not just the man who raised her, but the man who is her blood. Mr. Johnson, his hands trembling slightly, strokes her back as tears well in his eyes. He whispers softly, "I told you, did I? You've always been mine." Judge Lake smiles faintly, her eyes shining with empathy. "That's what love looks like," she says gently. "That's what showing up looks like." And she's right, because love isn't always about certainty. Sometimes it's about the people who choose to stay, even when doubt could easily drive them away. But as the reunion unfolds, all eyes turn to the woman who carried the secret for so long, Nissa's mother, Ms. Moffat. Her face is streaked with tears, but there's something in her eyes that wasn't there before: peace. For years, she's carried guilt like a shadow, guilt for her silence, for her confusion, and for the hurt it caused both men. Now, the truth has finally set her free too. "I can finally sleep," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "I can finally stop pretending." Judge Lake nods, leaning forward slightly. "You did what you thought was best at the time. You made mistakes, but you also gave your daughter the gift of life, and now the truth. That's a form of love too." Her words seem to wash over the courtroom like a balm. Ms. Moffat turns toward Mr. Johnson and says softly, "I'm sorry. For everything, for not being honest sooner, for letting my fear make me quiet." He nods slowly. "I forgave you a long time ago," he says. "I just needed to know, that's all I ever wanted." But before the court adjourns, Nissa has one more thing to say. Her hands still tremble as she looks at her mother, then at her father. "I don't hate you," she begins, her voice unsteady but full of conviction. I wish I had known sooner, because growing up I always felt something was missing. I used to ask myself why I didn't look like my cousins, why I didn't have my dad's eyes. You could have told me." Her mother's eyes fill with tears again. "I was scared, baby. I thought if I told you, you'd hate me or you'd leave." Nissa shakes her head gently. "I wouldn't have left, I would have understood. I just wanted honesty." Her words cut deep, not with cruelty but with truth. The kind of truth that burns but also heals. Judge Lake interjects softly, "That's what family is. Imperfect people, learning to tell the truth even when it hurts. And look at you now, you've made it through to the other side." Later, after the verdict, Mr. Johnson opens up more about his journey. He recalls the day Nissa was born and the moment he first held her. "When I saw her, I felt something," he says. "Even with all the doubt, I couldn't walk away. Something told me deep down that she was mine." He pauses, smiling softly, "And I was right." The audience smiles with him. The kind of smile that comes from watching something broken finally made whole again. For him, the DNA test didn't just bring closure, it brought redemption. He had questioned his worth as a father for years. Now, with the truth confirmed, he feels validated, seen not only by science but by fate itself. The story, though deeply personal, resonates far beyond the courtroom, because behind every paternity case lies the same unspoken question: what does it really mean to be a father? For Nissa, the answer is simple: it's the man who stayed. The man who showed up at the hospital when she was sick, who prayed for her when she was in a coma, who cried at her bedside and refused to let her go. That's what makes a father. And though Mr. Saunders, the man who once claimed her online, may have contributed to her confusion, the truth is that being a father requires more than DNA. It requires presence. That truth, harsh but clear, echoes throughout the courtroom like a lesson written for everyone watching. After the hearing, Nissa steps outside into the sunlight, her heart still pounding with a mix of relief and sadness. Reporters ask how she feels, and she smiles through tears. "I feel like I can breathe again," she says. "All my life I've been carrying someone else's silence. Today I got my voice back." Her words capture everything the case stood for: the quiet suffering of secrets, the pain of half-truths, and the power of finally knowing. Back inside, the judge sits quietly at her bench as the crew prepares for the next case, but her expression lingers with thought. "You know," she says to her clerk Jerome, "people think this show is about DNA, but really it's about love and what people do when love is tested." Jerome nods. "Love and truth, Your Honor, they don't always come easy." She smiles softly. "No, they don't, but they always matter." Meanwhile, the story continues, because this double episode doesn't end with one family's truth. Another story unfolds almost immediately after, one that mirrors Nissa's in unexpected ways. This time, a young woman named Kendra has brought her mother, and a man she barely knows, to court. Her claim is hauntingly familiar. She believes the man sitting across from her might be her biological father, a man she never met until recently. Her mother, like Nissa, admits that during the time of conception she was involved with more than one man, and for years she stayed silent, raising her daughter under a story she hoped would protect her. But like Nissa, Kendra eventually found out, not through honesty, but through whispers, messages, and secrets that refused to stay buried. When she sits before the judge, her pain feels almost identical. "I just want to know who I am," she says softly. "That's all. I don't care about the money or the drama. I just want the truth." It's a universal cry, the plea of a child who wants to connect the missing pieces of their identity. The judge nods knowingly. "You're not alone in that, honey. We've seen it time and time again. And the truth, no matter how late it comes, is always worth it." As the second case unfolds, the pattern becomes clear: two generations of women, both shaped by their mother's silence, both searching for belonging, both standing in the same courtroom asking the same question: who am I really? And in both stories, the truth becomes more than a test result. It becomes a doorway, a painful, necessary path toward understanding. In Kendra's case, when the DNA results are read, the man who doubted her breaks down crying. He is the father, and in that single moment, years of bitterness melt away. He reaches out, trembling, and she takes his hand. Their reunion mirrors Nissa's: messy, emotional, but real. Two strangers, connected by blood, finally given the chance to rewrite their story. When the camera pans back to Judge Lake, her closing words feel like they could apply to every story the courtroom has ever witnessed. Secrets don't protect families, they destroy them. Truth may hurt for a moment, but lies, they hurt for a lifetime. And every child deserves to know the truth about where they come from, because that truth is the foundation of who they are. Her words linger long after the episode fades to black. For Nissa, that truth has finally arrived, It may have taken nearly 3 decades, but it came, and it came with grace. She didn't just find her father. She found her truth, her closure, and her courage to forgive. And for every viewer watching, her story becomes a reminder that even the deepest secrets can't silence the power of truth, because sooner or later, it finds its way to the light. When asked if she regrets anything, Nissa smiles gently. "No," she says. "Everything that happened made me who I am. I wouldn't change it, but I'll never hide the truth from my children, ever." Her words close the episode like a vow, a promise that the cycle of silence ends here. As the final scene fades, she's shown walking hand in hand with her father, laughing softly, both of them smiling like two people finally free of the past. Their steps are small, but they're steady, the kind of steps that carry not just reconciliation, but rebirth. The courtroom that once felt heavy with silence is now filled with something rare: peace. The kind of peace that comes not from winning or losing, but from finally knowing. The journey of truth that began with one unexpected message has reached its end. But for Nissa and her family, this ending isn't a conclusion, it's a beginning. After the cameras stop rolling and the lights dim, Nissa sits quietly in the hallway, her emotions still tangled between relief and disbelief. Her whole life has been rewritten in a single afternoon. For years, she lived believing in a version of her story that was only half true. Now, she knows the full picture, and though it hurts, it's real. "I thought finding the truth would break me," she says softly, holding a tissue in one hand. "But it's actually made me stronger. I finally know who I am." Across the hall, her father, her real father, Mr. Johnson, leans against the wall, still processing his own flood of emotions. "I don't even know how to describe it," he says. "It's like I've been holding my breath for 28 years, and now I can finally exhale." Their reunion has brought healing not just to them, but to everyone watching. Because this wasn't just about DNA. It was about love, trust, and what it truly means to be a family. Later that evening, Nissa visits her mother. The tension that once sat between them has softened. They sit at the kitchen table where, years ago, her mother told her half-truths about her childhood. The same table that once divided them now becomes the place of their reconciliation. Her mother looks tired, but her voice is steady. "You hate me?" she asks quietly. Nissa shakes her head. "No, Mama, I don't hate you. I just wish you told me sooner, that's all." Tears fall freely now. "I thought I was protecting you," her mother whispers. "I didn't want you to grow up feeling confused. I didn't want you to see me differently." "I see you," Nissa says gently. "I always did. I just wanted you to see me too, all of me." They reach across the table, their hands meeting halfway, one trembling with guilt, the other with forgiveness. It's not a perfect reconciliation, but it's real. It's human. And that's what matters. The next day, Nissa and Mr. Johnson meet for breakfast, something small, something simple, but something they both dreamed about without realizing it. For the first time, they talk not as strangers connected by blood, but as father and daughter rediscovering each other. He tells her stories she's never heard, about the day she was born, about how her laugh sounded as a toddler, about how he used to sneak glances at her baby pictures, wondering if she was really his. "I used to stare at those photos," he admits, smiling softly, "and I'd say to myself, she looks like me. She has to be mine." Nissa laughs through her tears. "And now we know you were right." He nods, his voice breaking slightly. "Yeah, I was right all along." That breakfast becomes more than a meal. It becomes a moment of redemption. A quiet, sacred moment that neither of them will ever forget. But even as their relationship begins to heal, the echoes of the past linger. There's still the man who started it all, Lawrence Saunders, the stranger who messaged Nissa on Facebook claiming to be her father. For a long time, she doesn't know how to feel about him. Anger, confusion, pity. He wasn't malicious, just lost in his own story, his own regret. Eventually, she decides to call him, not to argue, not to accuse, but to bring closure. When he answers, his voice is quiet and cautious. "Lawrence," she says gently, "I got the results." He pauses and, "It wasn't you." The silence that follows is long, heavy, and filled with unspoken sadness. Finally, he sighs. "I guess I always kind of knew, but I had to try. I had to know." "I understand," she says softly. "Thank you for reaching out. It gave me the push I needed to find the truth." He chuckles weakly. "Well, then maybe I was supposed to." And just like that, the conversation, like their connection, ends not with bitterness but with peace. Because sometimes, even strangers play a part in bringing families together. As weeks pass, Nissa begins to see the change in her life in small, meaningful ways. Her bond with her father grows stronger. They talk often about life, about faith, about the years they lost and the years they still have. She starts visiting him regularly, bringing her nieces and nephews along. Family dinners become loud and full again, laughter replacing the quiet tension that used to hang over every conversation. Her mother joins sometimes too, and while things are still tender, they're healing slowly but surely. There's a certain grace in the way truth rebuilds what lies once broke. Months later, Paternity Court airs the episode. Nissa watches it with her family, her hands clasped tightly as her story plays out on screen. Hearing herself cry, watching her father's face as the truth was read aloud, it feels surreal. But as the episode ends, she doesn't feel embarrassment or shame. She feels pride. "People are gonna judge," she says. "But maybe one person out there, one daughter, one mom, one dad will see this and realize it's never too late to tell the truth." Her mother squeezes her hand. "You've always been strong," she says quietly, "even when I was." Nissa smiles. "You gave me that strength." And in that moment, the generational cycle of silence, of fear and secrecy, breaks for good. In the final moments of the episode, Judge Lake delivers words that seem to echo beyond the courtroom. Words that capture the essence of every story that has ever crossed her bench. DNA may prove the facts, but love proves the family. And sometimes the truth doesn't divide, it defines. Those words become the heartbeat of Nissa's new beginning. Life moves forward. Birthdays come and go. Holidays are shared without tension or secrets. Nissa often says that the truth didn't fix everything overnight. It didn't erase the pain or the years of uncertainty, but it gave her something even greater: freedom. She now volunteers with family counseling programs, speaking to young parents about honesty and communication. "You can't protect your kids with lies," she says during one interview. "You think you're saving them from pain, but you're only saving it for later." Her story, once filled with confusion and betrayal, now inspires others to face their truth, no matter how difficult. One afternoon, months after the case, Nissa sits with her father in a park, the same park where they used to meet when she was little, back when he was Mr. Johnson, not Dad. The sun is setting, painting the sky in orange and gold. She turns to him and says softly, "You know, I used to pray for this, for the truth, for you." He smiles. "And I used to pray that one day I'd get to hear you call me Dad." She laughs. "Well, get used to it, because that's never changing again." He chuckles, his eyes glistening. "Music to my ears, baby girl, music to my ears." They sit together in silence, the kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore, the kind that feels whole. The episode ends not with drama, but with a reflection, a voiceover from Judge Lake that ties both family stories together. Every person deserves to know their truth. Every child deserves to know where they come from. But even when the truth takes years to uncover, it's never too late for healing. Because family isn't just who you're born to, it's who shows up, who stays, and who loves you through the pain. As the final scene fades, the camera captures Nissa and her father walking together under the fatting sun, their laughter soft but full, their steps steady, their shadows stretching long but together. Months after the case, Nissa reflects in a short journal entry that she later shares publicly. For 28 years, I lived with questions. Some days I thought I didn't deserve the answers, but the truth doesn't hide forever. It waits, it whispers, it follows you until you're ready to hear it, and when it finally comes, it changes everything. My truth didn't destroy me, it rebuilt me. I didn't lose a father. I found the one who was always there. Those words go viral, touching hearts across the country, proof that sometimes the most personal stories carry the most universal truths.